Okay, welcome to the third part. Okay, we are completely free at this point because you've been through part one, and anybody who hasn't, go back to part one. You go to part one, okay, you decide, yeah, I'm going to watch part two. You watch part two, and you decided to share it, and you have shared it, and here we are in part three. Now that means that we're all together, okay? Everybody that's ever watched this, everybody who ever will, are watching this at the moment now. It's a little bit tricky to get your head around that, but give it a go. Okay. Um, okay, think about all the people here, all right, me. Everybody's in the future. Everybody's in the future. And you're all probabilities. Okay, that's the way, the traditional way of thinking about mathematics and academia will be. It's all probabilities. You're a probability. No, no. You're watching this now, so you're definitely, you know you're not a probability. And everybody in the past, between me and you, is definitely not a probability. We actually exist and we've actually passed it forwards. The evidence is we're here. Okay? So, so even if it's just three of us, okay, even if it's just three of us, me, I pass it to somebody, and it's you. Okay, it's three of us. The point is, it's three of us. Okay. And that means that we're all together. And you've shared it forward. So there might be four. But when they watch it and they share it forwards, okay, but again, relative to you, it's probabilities. But again, when they're watching it, hello, you who shared it with them, is no longer a probability. And you've made that true. Or at least you've shared it with them. If they so decide to watch the second part, and if they decide to share it, then they will be here with us. All right? So there's conditionality. There is conditionality, but the conditionality is in each individual. You made the decision to watch the second part. You made the decision to share. Well, you also made the decision to accept the thing in the first place. Okay, so, and that's what we're doing. We're inviting people to make decisions. Okay. And it's to do with the next people, more important than us. And we show that by actually, when you're watching this, you're thinking about the next people, the people in the future. And so for people to do that here means, wow, we're going to think about 100,000 people. Oh, that's difficult to do. Yes, yes it is. But once we're at 2030 and there's 100,000 people, for example, maybe watching this, if not watching this, maybe we'll have 100,000 people watching this in 2040. It doesn't matter. The point is, some real unrealistic number ahead of us, okay, when they're actually watching it, it's not unrealistic. For us to go on and on about how unrealistic it is, it's just like, oh, for God's sake, get over it. Yeah, get over it. I have to get over it. And so, to anybody, certainly in the beginning, okay, to get over it. And you have, because you've shared it forwards. So forget about it. You don't have to worry about it. So now, your judgment of when this is being watched, okay, is not important. It's no longer a restrictive element in our thinking. We're willing to say, okay, at this point, okay, three people, okay. At this point, 100,000 people, hi, okay. It's a billion. Woo-hoo! Okay, no, obviously we can't have a billion watching this, but something like this, a video like this, and things to do with a global, there'll be a clip. You know, if we manage to get to this state and we get anywhere even close to something like realistically being global unity, then there will be clips. For example, me going, of all the things that I've recorded in 2020 in December, okay, the end of 2020, there'll be like a little kind of like, you know, half a minute of me going, I think this, yes, good luck, good luck. You know, and people who are going, ha 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 ha, cool, cool. You know, I might be dead. I'll probably be dead. But it'll be kind of funny. It'll be kind of funny. Okay, I've done these kind of things with like phone calls where I remember a birthday party and I called up, it was my friend's birthday. Okay, so she was there, and it's her party, and I went, and it was some pub somewhere. And I went, oh, right, okay. And for some reason, I called her on the phone, and I started to speak to her while she was present, and I left a message for her on her phone, so that when she'd get it in the future, when she was alone, basically at home, and she listened to the record, or maybe the next day, she'd understand what I was saying, and she'd think it would be quite funny, and blah, 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 wishing you a nice birthday on your day, or something. And when she was alone, okay. And she was like, oh, she didn't quite get it, she told me. But the next day, she listened to it and she got it, right? And it was funny, okay. And that's, okay, so it's a future kind of thing. And I don't do funny, as you can tell. I don't do jokes, okay, because I can't quite predict what I'm going to say. It's a terrible joke. I can't remember anything, okay. So it's okay, right. It's funny or it's not funny. We'll see. All right. Right. So here we are at part 3. Now, I'm going to keep this short. Another little thing. Or I'm going to keep this short because, not short, but who you are on your side, your relationships, is the most important thing. What the main problem of these structures are is it depersonalizes us with our negative numbers, with our separation, objectification, reinforced by academia. It's not quite reinforced by religion, but because we've got multiple religions, yes, it's separated us as political bodies. These self-supporting systems, right? Or even the imaginary, oh, we're superheroes, you're a superhero, everybody's a superhero. Okay, or, fake social relationships. I mean, I'm addicted to films. Okay, so I watch these films and go, whoo, or, have some kind of mental, social kind of exercise, and then I'm back to my, isolated individual kind of like social space because that's what I do, okay? Because everybody's living in these other systems and it does my head in, okay? So, until people start to exhibit behavior and mentality that is out with the institutions that we're in, then quite frankly, it's about being in C classes. And let me tell you, I didn't enjoy them much, okay? Because they're just dull, basically. Whereas once people to start exhibiting, respect for other people, regardless of who they are, what they are, blah, 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 it means we're exiting, we're in this space now, we've exited the normal social, psychosocial processes and practices and everything else, and we've actually created a little bubble around us that enables us to even think this and therefore socially manifest it. Right. So here we are. Now, the thing I woke up with this morning, it was something to do with this. Okay, it's something to do with this. I've kind of gone through it. Definitely this. A difference of ideas. Okay, so no, it was really subtle. Okay, definitely this. And the zero social distance. Now, I've only indicated what you do individually because there's a paradox here. As you might have noticed, there's a few paradoxes going on here, but paradoxes is part of the reality of the fact that we think we're separate and yet we're together. That's the paradox. Literally, you kind of inside yourself think about, oh, that's not so good. Oh, but wait a minute. The fact that I'm thinking it means, and that's it. Okay? And then you kind of continue to do that. If you keep on doing that in that kind of direction, you go, world's okay, actually. Okay? Because there's a certain form of detachment, a little detachment from a negative thought, which we know is a mistake to think as being bad. Okay? And we're basically accepting what is. That's the biggest thing. Okay, we're just accepting what is, i.e. the positive version of reality, i.e. what's actually happening. Okay. However, that's just a solo thing. In a lot of meditation, it's called a refuge. Contemplation. You're kind of like disappearing off internally, okay, as if we have an internal psychological state. Is that true? We have internal biology, okay, and so we have the nerves and brains, so inside. But if you actually sit there and think, okay, imagine, okay, the apple, okay. Now, when you imagine the apple, is the imaginary apple inside your head? No, that's just the neurons inside your actual head. So where is the actual imagined apple? Okay, So we're projecting it out of something, our minds. Okay, so is your mind a thing, like a physical substance? Like a head, an eyeball, a brain? No. Okay, so this notion of being inside is a legacy of the fact that we have a body, and obviously we feel things and we think things. Yes, okay, and it is localized in your brain thing, all right, and your body, all right. However, the actual experience that we have, love, for example, we feel it organically. See, that's definitely a sensation that we feel. We feel. Well, actually, we may not feel love, but certainly feel hunger. Okay, or you feel want. Okay, it's kind of a bit more like lust and stuff. But love is slightly different, especially not the love of that's related in the sexual way, but love that is that is conducive for human beings. When you really like your friend, you really like them. Okay, love. Okay, or you're just kind of friendly with everybody. Okay, and that's kind of like a distributed kind of love. Whatever the spiritual understandings and whatever religion you come up from, whatever language you've got, who cares, right? The point is, you know what it is. Okay, you know what it is. Your parents' love, maybe. Most of us have had that. Unconditional love. That's really lovely. All right? And you might have that. Hopefully you have that. And you've got this, you know what it is. You know what it is. Because it's a mammally based thing of basically social stuff. However, the point what I'm trying to indicate is it's localized and it's created by whatever your brain's doing. There are biological processes which are giving rise to various emotional states and everything else. And your consciousness is kind of, whatever. But the point is, as far as I can tell, it's all just projective, which is, it's just kind of light. There's a light source. That's kind of like the simplest version of it. And therefore, everything that the light kind of like shines out at is basically from a point. Okay, so there's no kind of inside or outside. And if that's the case, and you have it and I have it, that's our zero social distance. Okay, to practice that and do that requires a bit of training, but actually, kind of kids do it kind of naturally as they run around, and the whole notion of fairness and stuff like that, it's all kind of natural. If one simply goes, oh yeah, another one of us. Okay, yeah, we're all together on this. I think we are, all right? And so this is an individual practice, and it's not just something, it's not the object of thought, it's the fact that you're thinking it or feeling it or anything like that means that there is a correspondence of the individual with all individuals. Okay, all of us. And as I'm verbalizing, and I verbalize more fluidly in this last section, last part than I have, I think, nearly in all of the videos I've done. I've done a few, but I just went, and I really moved quickly across multiple. Normally when I teach, I do like 3 concepts. Okay, 3 the most usually. It's like juggling. You do 2 more, many more, people are like, ooh. But you need at least 3. Because if you do 2, it gets into this kind of duality business. Whereas 3, it starts turning into this kind of system thing. Okay, and it's social as well. It's, minimal social is 3. 2 is good, okay? That's a minimal social, really. That's the relationality. But when you get 3, that's when it becomes very interesting. Dynamically unstable. Mathematics, dynamically unstable. That's what's interesting. It's interdependent, dynamically unstable, or it is contingent upon our verification, our practices, i.e., exercising your light. Okay. Now, if you start to understand, well, if I contemplate the negative, I'm actually, there's an aspect of me just got positive. Very nice, very nice. Sorry about that. There was a little alarm to go actually and see my friend. Oh, that was all I wanted to say. You are really important, and the people that you know, the person who gave this to you, the person you give it to, and all the people and everybody in existence, all right, that you know around about you, socially, at your period in time in history, and as you have been going through, is it? All the way back from your family, when you've been born, and who you grew up with, and who you met, and the kind of friends that you kind of ended up being friends with, and then the friends you kind of chose, and they chose you, all that kind of stuff. That's you. That is it. Okay, same with me. Same with me. Same with each one of us. Okay, it's the local. It's the local which is important. Okay, So, just to emphasize that, I need to cut this short in order to go, to up a hill, okay, with a friend of mine, okay. And although I would like to take an hour doing this, I can't, okay, because So although this might be about global unity and super important, blah blah blah, no, I'll tell you what's more important, my friend. You know who you are. You're watching this. You know who you are. Okay, you know. Okay, so we have to make those decisions, and those decisions are local. Okay, so although we're going to explore global, and we start talking about big numbers, we go, oh wait a minute, just relax, everything's cool, you've done it all, you've already shared, don't worry, everything's cool, we're all good. Okay, we get to these big numbers because of exponential growth. Okay, so I'm just going to quickly cover that. I'll cover that a little bit. But I really want to try and pull this together. Okay, so here we go. 3. If you do it for 2, if any kind of viral occurs, it has to be more than 1. Okay, because if you share this, I did this with another video. I did this actually yesterday, and the numbers were mind-blowing. And then I basically spent 8 hours looking at the dimensionality of any social graph. Okay, any kind of, it's called acyclic graph. Okay, non-directed, undirected, acyclic graph. So for example, if people just shared linearly, same 10 quid, passed on, next person, and if you did that, and if you did it, if each step, okay, the sharing, person to you took a day, you to the next person took a day, next person took a day. If you just pass on that one thing per day, how long is it going to take before we hit, now what number did I come up with? Did I say 1 million? Or was it 1 billion? Was it 1 million? Was it 1 billion? Oh God, I have to add, I can't remember. Do you have to do the calculation again? How many hours would it be? How many days would it be? Sorry, how many days would it be? How many years would it be? And it worked out at something like several thousand. Several million. If we're going to go for 1 billion, okay, it was millions of years. Millions. Okay, we'd have to wait a long time before we got our billion if each person just shared the same 10 quid forward and just took a day to do it. Okay. However, if, and it's an if from my perspective, okay, but since you have shared with 2 people, okay, everybody watching this shared with at least 2 people, it's 30 days. 10 billion. 30 days. The power of adding some money, i.e. our values, and taking the risk of engaging other human beings, saying, look, I think this might be valuable to you, and that risk. I didn't go into that, about the risks involved and everything else, but that's a future-oriented thing. But once the person's giving it to us, and we're thankful, and we actually do like the thing, then there is actually no risk, as it were. That was an imagined thing. They were correct in sharing it with us. And that is faith. It's more like a function of faith rather than risk. Okay, so when you shared it, you went, oh, I think this person's going to like it. It's a matter of faith. And then when you find it actually is valuable, then that was trust. And so the trust is reinforced. So, so this notion of this just sharing with 2 people, just 30 steps, 30 days gives us 1 billion. Check out the math. 2 to the power of 30 is in fact 1 billion. However, if it was 3 people, okay, how long would it take? And I'll give you a moment, and it is 20 days. 20 days. Okay. So if we said, okay, let's be really calm with what we're doing here. Let's just say a year. Okay, so a person shared it and then you share it for it. It takes a year each step. And it's 3 people. Okay, it's actually 20 years before we hit 1 billion. And yes, after 10 years, it's 100,000 people. It's exponential growth. Now, large numbers, how? we've been through 2020. We all know about R value and the virals and all that kind of stuff. We've actually experienced it. I've been quite close to it. Okay, and it happens because of just simply being more than one. And I worked out some percentage to go, okay, so how long would it be if it wasn't, if it was sooner than a day, but it was, you know, if we tried to do this by 2040, if we actually seriously got together, we were trying to do some kind of global unity thing, and we really wanted a global unity kind of like thing, all right? And remember, that's not a thing as in an institution. No, it naturally involves everybody. If you're thinking about global unity, it naturally means everybody. So it's a network. It's not a group that you join, like the internet. It's not something that you kind of qualify for and somebody says whether you can or not. HTTP, the whole point and process of it for Berners-Lee, is that it's a protocol. And you plug in your modem and you can join. You have to have the money and resource to have the modem, all right? But once you do, and you put in the code, boop, boop, you're part. In fact, the internet's grown with you. So similarly with this network of us, it just grows. And it grows because you share it. Okay, they accept it and then they decide to share it forwards. It's that action. This is like a little financial protocol. Okay, and that's how you get your expansion of numbers. And it has this kind of, the exponential growth like a viral is just more than one. And the percentages, it's something like 6%. Okay, if you get like 6% of the people that you share it forwards with actually share it forwards, okay, get to part 3. Okay, so only 6% can actually hit certain ludicrously large numbers. Okay, if they do that within a day. If they don't do it within a day, then, but if you do it within a day, it'd be 30 days before we hit 1 billion. If everybody purely did to the power of 2. But actually, it's only like 6%, and we can get these ludicrous numbers, or even less. In fact, it's less than 1%. Okay, it's kind of ludicrous. Okay, if you did it daily. Okay, if everybody just shared once, next person, next day, and so on and so forth. Anyway, the maths of that, but I tried to go into the dimensionality of it, and I got stuck. Look, anyway, that's just numbers and more maths and everything else. Right. The thing I'm trying to indicate, what am I trying to indicate here? What was the thought? Okay, one of the thoughts I'd had, which I hadn't talked about, which I should have, is 1 to the n. Now, I came up with 1 to the n about 10 years ago. Okay, and I thought that is a better way to indicate social unity. So when you've got a bunch of kids in a room and everybody's paying attention, or it's like actors, right, when they say they've got the whole audience in the palm of their hands, when they say, to be or not to be, or that is the question. And they're really kind of good, or they're really considering something, and everybody in the audience is like, I'm really with that person. And the actors, some actors have said, we're talking about actors in the real world, like audience, yeah. They can actually feel everybody's attention, as it were. Like they can hear a pin drop, that kind of quality. Okay, and that for me is not, like kids in a room, 30 bodies in a room. No, something about our minds, okay, are concurrent at that moment. And yes, we have differences, but instead of thinking, oh, I disagree with that, of that person there, and therefore this is opposite, no, we're just going, I disagree with that, I think this, I think something else. Okay, that's good. That means you just happen to be looking in a slightly different direction. Okay, and we're looking at different things. And if we were looking at the same thing, i.e. a physical object or reality, we'd have different perspectives on a thing. And that gets tricky enough. And we can't even manage that with the current traditional academic and various kinds of tools that we've got and how we normally do business in politics. Have you noticed politics? Somebody talks about, oh, no, blah, 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 oh, blah, 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 oh, blah, blah, blah. It's like, okay, that's not going to work. All right. So if we're talking about a thing, we can get different perspectives on a thing. However, if what we're talking about is our social context, which is multi-reflexive and all different judgments and blah, 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 and that's the thing, it means that we're kind of always looking out at lots of things, which means that we're never going to kind of get agreement on a thing which is external to us. Okay, like a flag or United Nations Constitution or any kind of objectification, we're never going to agree on it, have the same perspective on it, because then we'd be literally the same person. That's just not going to happen. It's not going to happen. Okay, that's an illusion. So when we're talking about global unity, it's not a thing, but we will, as we get closer to it, get a slightly, I probably think that we're probably going to go, yeah, it's nuclear bombs business. That's not cool. Okay, how do we disarm that? Or in fact, any kind of mass production of weapons. Yeah. Now to get to that point, from this point, I'm a conscious adult. I'm aware of the institutional complexities and the amount of business and money in the government and their collective fear or history and everything else to go, right, we're going to get rid of military, are we? Not at the moment. Okay, we need to build up to it, have enough social evidence that there are, for example, up to this point, a country has done that. Probably a fairly small country has gone, right, we have no weaponry. If anybody wants to invade us, we'd rather they didn't, but they could. Okay, we can't defend ourselves. We will. We'll defend ourselves with sticks and we will die of defending it, all right? But we won't do it through any mass production of weaponry to defend us. Okay, it's like Gandhi's thing. We'll just literally walk. You have to beat us back. Walk into our own houses. No. Okay, walk until we get beat to death. Okay, and it's only if other people support us and basically prevent that onslaught. But then they're making use of the fact that everybody else has weapons. Yeah, possibly. Okay, but at least they're demonstrating, and they might have actually. We're not just talking about an island here. Okay, we're talking about a reasonably sized country. But the point is, they're doing it, and they've done it with enough money flow because they're using a different money flow system. They're no longer operating as businesses and departments and all this kind of stuff. They're doing things as if they're working in businesses and they're working towards mutual objectives, but the way it's done is different. And the reason why they've got to that point, and they're trying to indicate, well, we can do it, and I think it's possible for other people to do it. And the trick is to provide an alternative for these hierarchies that are producing all this weaponry, to say, guys, you're doing that fantastic job, but could you do it for this? Could you restructure your organization so you're doing this? Okay, so the people basically are still going to be doing something. It's just not manufacture guns and bombs and missiles. Obvious things like death, destruction. Missiles that effectively are rockets to go to Mars. Oh, okay, great, we're all going to Mars. Okay, right. A whole bunch of, people generally interested in the military end up going to Mars. Okay, have fun. All right. In fact, I think that's what the Expanse is. If you actually look at the model of Mars, it's almost like a pseudo-military structure, like a Star Trek-y kind of military pseudo thing. Right, who knows? I don't look. Okay. At this point, however, that's all just sci-fi. But at this point, we'll have evidence. We'll have evidence of things happening earlier. Now, I've talked about this in other videos, okay? I can't be bothered going over it. But basically, there are other, a valley, a whole city has gone alternative. Okay, so they're doing ABC states and classes and schools, and they're doing, the academia, social science has actually got significant enough results that they're actually doing socially comprehensive, beneficial, research that is actually useful for people in society. And people are doing network things and basically interdisciplinary, the basic silo problem is being kind of solved, and it's being shown, all right? And that's a city, and before that you've got a village or a town, okay, or a valley. So I thought after 2030, fairly soon after 2030, we need to have kind of a whole valley or a village or something like that, basically operating in a completely different way, holistically, okay, between people, intersubjective, but collectively as a result. That is like an A state. Now, if we got this evidence, then, well, okay, it's evidence, but also it needs to be experienced. So the sooner that we start that kind of experience, the better. Hence, I say, look, if we get scale to go viral, boom, we get tens of millions, and then with the next version, a billion, I can support a billion. Just sharing stuff, videos, articles, funny lolcat videos, whatever it is that they want to share, fine. But of those, 100,000 will be like, oh, this is interesting. What's this thanking business? Oh, okay. And then there'll be 10,000 or 1,000 that are like, really, wow. And they've got the social whatever amongst their friends to start producing things like musicians and everything else, but using these alternative models and systems and generating more money and just becoming incredibly successful. It's like the beginning of Twitter, but with money flow. Okay, the beginning of Twitter with money flow. And different groups, and it's the people, as I said, it's the people that you know using these tools. It's not the tools. They're just ideas and tools and things that we try, but it's the fact that we use them and we learn how that works collectively. And it's the social consequence of our individual that's the evidence. That's why we go forwards. And the ones that succeed at that, of the billion or whatever that are playing around with stuff, the ones that are doing that socially more comprehensively have got the skills. They're learning the skills of doing it at slightly larger, wider scales. Okay, and that's what's happening gradually over time. It has to be learned. So billion, well, that means that if we're doing it by a periodicity of 3, it means we're talking about 300 million the year before, we're talking about 100 million the year before, we're talking about 30 million the year before, we're talking about 10 million the year before, and so on. Did I just get that maths right? I don't know. I can't. No, I missed that a bit. Yeah, I missed that a bit. I jumped. Okay. So, but the point is, you go down to 3 people. Okay. So remember, everybody who's looking forwards goes, don't worry. Okay. It's just you've done it already. You've shared with a few people. That's it. What we're doing here now is we're contemplating what the consequences of this and expanding our sense of self from you as an individual to other people watching. We're all watching. We're all here. I'm watching as well. In a way, I'm watching. Right. Going back to this, 1 to the n. So when you've got a bunch of kids in a room, or us, whether it's 3 of us, or 100,000 of us, or a billion of us, okay, it's 1 to the n. And palm of the hand, kind of like, oh well. Now, that's not quite happening now, okay, because I'm talking. But if we start to really bring a bit of gravity to this, okay, these things are actually happening. It starts becoming significant. And that 1 to the n, our utilization of us being unified, even this part, however many it actually literally is, 2 of us, 1 to the 3. Wow. Okay. 100,000 of us. Okay. Wow. Okay. 1 billion of us. It's okay. It's just as light. Look, it's just as light. Whether it's 3, it's just. So, and that's the thing. Okay, once we start thinking things like this, it's very light. Okay, because. Okay. So I came up with that 10 years ago, and then I later found out there's a thing called Roots of Unity. Roots of Unity. Check it, it's a real thing. Roots of Unity, and it's this, z to the n is equal to 1. Because all it's done is it's gone, well, 1 to the n, that's hardly meaningful. 1 to the n, okay, 1 to the 3, that's 1 times 1 times 1. That's 1. Arithmetically, anything applied to any physical reality, or in fact, even symbolically on a maths bit of algebra, you're just like, 1 to the n, that's just 1. We can just leave it as 1. Forget about the n. Well, 3, I wouldn't forget about the rest, but you can. That's what maths does. Okay, sorry, that's my friend. Okay, that's my friend asking me, make some tea. I should put the tea on. In fact, I've got to finish this very soon now because the tea's going to make a hell of a racket. Okay, so, right. So z to the n is equal to 1, and that's called the roots of unity. Okay, and all it means is that z is, instead of being a one-dimensional structure, a real number, or whatever kind of number that is, just a number to the n, it's a two-dimensional number. 2 dimensions. But the problem with that is it starts going to the spatial, blah, blah, blah. However, it is interesting because it creates a polygon. Z is equal to, if you take the nth root, it's the roots of unity. And it creates a polygon. So if it's 3 of us, it creates in in a circle, it creates a triangle. Actually, I think it's the other way around. I think it looks like that. Okay. And if it's a square, if it's 4, if there's 4 of us, it creates a 4-sided shape, square, and if it's 5, it's a pentagon, and so on and so forth. All right. So if it's like 100,000 of us, that's like a circle. And I thought this morning, one of them was a billion. That's really a very, 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 very circular circle. It's a polygon that's sort of billion size. That's like a circle. And it's basically like an extended version of, wait for it, wait for it, I forgot what it's called, Arthur's Round Table. The billion of us. Okay, but this is the maths. Okay, so 1 to the n, although arithmetically it kind of like useless. No, it's not useless. You can ignore the other people. It's just me. It's just you and me. Okay. But no, it's everybody who's ever watched this and ever will. It's 1 to the n. And if you think it's just you, that's the problem. It's isolating you. It's getting rid of that n. Oh, it's just 1. It's just me. That's the problem with academia. It just goes on and on about the person who's thinking or the person who's talking. It's just about me. I'm not. Are you listening? Okay, I'm going to tell you something. Oh, forget that. It's to do with the number of people listening. It's to do with the number of people receptive, contemplating. All of this is the contemplative side. Apart from the sharing of the thing, that £10 is actually an active giving. It is intersubjective. That's what we entered in here. Okay, but now that we're in this bit again, no, it's just us. It's just us internally going, what are we doing? But here we're allowed to think of the fact that there are, a billion of us. Oh wow, a billionth fruit. That's what you are and I am. A billionth fruit. Wow. Imagine a table with a billion of us. Wow, it's like so very far away. Right? If we're physically around that table, because of the, we can't get zero social distance in terms of physically, but mentally, somebody starts talking, we're all with them. We all have different perspectives, but we're all with them. Okay, so there's something about the centre of the circle. This is the maths. But instead of thinking about mathematics as being about something, or just being something about polygons and other shaped physical things, or just mathematics, look, it's things. And another thing you might want to relate this to is geographs. And geographs on a polygon related to the roots of unity gives us something to do with our attention and our identity. Okay. It's something about expanding this notion of oneness, unity. So you, with your friends, that's quite nice. Okay, in the same way that we have this temporal relationship, and we're going to be finishing this very, very soon. I've got to really stop this. However much I'm kind of enjoying it, I'm almost getting to the point of actually pulling it together. My friend's more important. You're going to watch this. No, you're watching this now. I'm going to do this. And hopefully she's going to get to this third part. I hope she does. Okay, and she's going to look at this and she's going to go out. David, you should have carried on. You should have, ignored me. It's like, Okay, so, you're more important. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. No, that's what I'm going to do. Okay, so, here we are, and we're like, now, at this point here. Okay, so we should probably be about here. If I was doing this properly. Where was I? Right. And so we're getting close to a billionth. And so you're extending. So in the same way that you can go, wait a minute, this hour or 40 minutes or whatever it is, let's say an hour. Okay. Is an element of it. It's not just that. It's actually just the piece literally, wherever it is that you see this. If you happen to be watching this, then, that's you right there. Right, great, okay. And that, wherever it is that anybody's watching it, is that bit literally in it. It's not a projection like I'm trying to draw here. It's actually, it literally is part of our time thing, from the past to the future. This is just a representation. But if you kind of just go, well, you can, because you're watching this, it's easier for you. For me, it's a bit tricky because I draw these things, then you look at these things, and you go, I'm trying to understand this thing. Wait a minute, no. I'm in this time, I'm watching this, It is part of the continuity of existence. Similarly, the people that you know, the network of people that you know, the group of people that you know, your little network of people, my network, is part of the extended global network. This is true. This is true. It's not made up. Okay. The people you know, oh yeah, I think a few of those, right, are part of the entire global network. Yeah, we're already part of this thing. We're already part of this thing. The trick is that we have to just do a few things. Multi-reflexive, do a little bit of maths, a little bit better maths, all right? Not better maths, just, a bit more reflexive maths. Play around with money in a slightly different way, actually put in values, actually write down values, guys, because that's actually important for us, all right? We do a few action cycles. That helps dissolve these structures, okay? And actually goes, wait, this is actually practical in a business setting. Yeah, we want to go head to head with the businesses and basically show that we can actually achieve objectives in a more efficient manner. Absolutely. And definitely, in schools, the kids love it. The kids love this kind of thing. So they're just, if they're good at it when they're young, which they are, I've tested it with adolescents. We're designed for this. It's just because we've been denatured with C classes and money and everything else for hundreds of years. And if we're doing and basically, I don't want to be doing this. Okay, talking about these things. Okay, I want to explore. What I really want to do is explore a bit more maths because I'm a bit tired. And I'll do a bit of fiction. Okay, I'll play around with fiction. This kind of thing of describing this at this stage is very challenging because I don't have people that around me, basically. It's a bit sad. And I've risked too much to get to this point. Okay, I really have. I'm smiling about it, but let me tell you. Ooh, there's pain. Okay. Okay, so if we get this right, though, okay, good things happen. Okay, what can I say? So I've had enough. I've talked enough. I'm going to see my friend now. I haven't quite pulled it together. And maybe on another video, I've got one more day tomorrow. Maybe I'll be able to pull it out. And it's simply something to do with the mathematics and almost, this 1 to the n or slightly more complicated and the roots of unity. I tried to do the dimensionality of this 1 point something or other, okay, but it's not quite 2. Dimensionality of the tree. This is quite boring, which is very, very similar to that as the group network. That's also really good, the fact that you're part of this network. That shouldn't be bounded. There's no boundedness to that. It's just a network of links to you. It's called a star graph. Star graph. Star graph. And I called it a Gleich group when I was making this stuff up a while ago. I called it the Gleich group because of Gleich chaos theory. Okay, that's a Gleich group or a star graph. And star. Oh, that's quite nice. That's quite a nice connection to light, star. Okay, so we're all star groups. And it's to do with exercising that in smaller little star groups coming together, several star groups. Constellations. Yeah, people have talked about this. The people who are doing all these other things, constellations, positive money, everything else. Yeah, take part in this because basically this is how it works. I don't care about the words and groups and bounded entities and words or even the maths of it symbolically. I'm not even that interested in it. I'm interested in us outside of all those things. But we need the minimal tools to help us. And once we start using these minimal tools, you and us, connect with the other people. Because I'm dead. So connect up with the other people. Share, all right? Some of the comments. And what you think could come next. What's missing? What can be done? Get together with a bunch of people. Try some of these things if you haven't tried them out already. More than what you just tried with me. And go, okay, let's try and do this. Let's try and do an action cycle. And you'll learn. And you'll learn that you already know this stuff. You already know this. You're natural. And if you don't feel that natural, there are people amongst us that are supernatural. Okay, no, really mundane natural. Okay, they're just human beings that are like through and through human beings. I know a few of them, even older people. And they just like, this is quite simple, blah, blah, blah. And we really do bring out the fact that we are actually already connected. We're just organising a bit more. And once we do a bit more, we'll be able to counter some of the more heavy organisational structures that we face. And no pretending. The challenge is going to be absolutely ludicrous and massive. However, actual engagement together doesn't have to be. Okay, that can be really good and easy. So, with that, I'm going to say goodbye. My friend is going to be up on a hill, going to be cold. I'm going to have to meet them with a cup of tea. So, I hope you might be up a hill, might not be, in a hole, you might be, wherever it is that you are. Okay, for this period now, one to the end, and you've experienced it. And you deserve it. You deserve it because you shared it. Okay? There's no negative to this. There is no negative to this. So, okay, cool.